And I'm joined in studio by our regular business expert, Ger Tannum of Island Bridge Brand Development, and this week by Nicola Smith of Big Red Kitchen. You're both very welcome. We've got our Insomnia Coffee. Thank you, Bobby Kerr. Very good. And we're talking about Big Red Kitchen. First of all, Nicola, do you want to tell us a little bit about what Big Red Kitchen is and how long it's been around?
Okay. Well, I started Big Red Kitchen about 2 years ago now. From home, and what I produce is a range of homemade gourmet jams, chutneys, curds, marmalades and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, and can I just tell listeners that Nicola, you've been brilliant to bring in a whole selection of them. So as we talk, we're going to sample some of the wares. Ger, are you impressed? Straight away you're looking and it goes, are you salivating?
I am indeed. I love good food, so we're on to a winner here.
And I suppose, Nicola, the idea of homemade, locally sourced, all that's really important to your branding, to your sense of identity.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important. It's how it started, if I'm honest. You know, I found myself living in Stamullen in County Meath, and Clark's Fruit Farm is based literally right next door to us. And in my opinion, he grows some of the best fruit in the country. He's won many awards for his fruit. So I kind of found myself on the doorstep of all this fantastic produce, and that's where it all began.
And were you a jam maker beforehand?
I was not a jam maker beforehand. I grew up in West London, right in the city really, and jam making was something that was never part of my childhood. And when I moved over to Ireland, when my dad returned home, over 10 years ago now, it was something that kind of crept in over time.
Yeah. Ger, we've got, and Nicola, as I said, has been grateful enough to bring us in, or we're grateful to her for bringing in some of her samples. So straight away, what are your first impressions?
Well, there's a business opportunity, first of all. There's a great business opportunity because in many ways, I think small is the new big as regards kind of consumer taste. People like the idea that they're buying something local, that it's kind of homemade, it's natural, all of those kind of good things that we associate with the kitchen. So, great name. I love the name of the business, Big Red Kitchen.
Big
Red Kitchen.
Yeah, it's nice.
It is.
And straight away, I've got a picture now. I don't even know what your kitchen looks like, but in my head, I've got a kind of a rustic kitchen, an old kind of country farmhouse kitchen with your thing working away. Please tell me that's kind of what you do.
It is. I mean, you know, Stamullen is a small place. We're still a village. We've grown massively in the last 10 years, but it's still a very small place. We're still definitely in the kitchen, and it is just me there in my home kitchen making all this produce.
Are you gone? I mean, are you not driven mad? Like, you must be up early. If you're producing a lot of jam, you're working an awful lot.
There is a lot of work in it, but if you didn't love it, you wouldn't do it.
No, I can't imagine.
So, you know, you definitely have to have a passion for it.
Ger, give us expert opinion on on first of all, let's look at, we have the brand. It's a classic jam jars, you know, this hexagonal jars. Talk to me about labelling.
Yeah, well, I think Nicola is faced at the moment with kind of the challenge, I think, of all artisan producers, which is that she's found a kind of a ready market based on what she's doing already. People are reacting to the produce. They love it.
By the way, as you talk, go on.
They love the food, and she's getting a great reaction at farmers markets. And I think particularly getting a great reaction from people who've seen her, who've met her, and have a sense that this is her food. This is Nicola's jam. This is Nicola's chutney. And I should say that they're absolutely delicious. I haven't tasted a lemon curd quite like that for many, many years, I think.
Lemon curd. I'm informed that George Hook, this is his dream food, lemon curd. For me, I have to say, I've always loved jam since I was a little kid. My mother used to look at me and go, like, I could happily put half a pot of jam on one slice of toast. But then I had kind of a sweet tooth.
You're a great customer for the Big Red Kitchen. We'll sign you up.
You had me a jam. So the local label. Now you have here. There's two labels here. There's a kind of a standard homemade label printed on a computer and stuck on a sticker. Just has a very kind of just info driven, and then there's a second label. Nicola, tell us a bit about the original label.
Okay, well, the original label was what I started with. I've had it for nearly 2 years, and I've recently, just in the last couple of weeks, changed over to the new label. That was driven by a number of factors. Customers telling me that the old label was very small. You know, it's very difficult to get all the information that the HSE require, you know, and rightly so, the list of ingredients, the batch numbers, the best before dates, as well as, you know, your information about the product and the business name onto quite a small label. And the other thing that happened was, you know, because it's a homemade jam and there's no preservative other than sugar, it must be refrigerated once it's opened to keep it
Yeah.
And the label that I was printing at home was just a paper label, and it did not withstand any moisture. So as soon as it went into the fridge, it would just peel off.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of factors that drove us, to change the label. The new label is printed by a local printer. He worked very hard to design the label with me.
This is the newer one now.
The new label.
Yeah.
So I was very clear, I want something that's bigger, that can fit more information on, and something that people will come to recognise as being Big Red Kitchen and our produce.
Yeah.
I also wanted something that would speak to people. The picture of myself on there is because I want people to know, this is me, this is my produce.
You stand over the product. Ger, everything Nicola's saying makes sense. You can see that the original label is more functional than anything else.
Yes.
It conforms to HSE regulations, but it also has that kind of very homemade feel. The newer label looks more professional, but in my opinion hasn't lost the kind of the small producer's touch. I wonder what you think.
I think you're right. I think it still looks like an artisan jam. Funny enough, I think it's a step very much in the right direction.
Okay.
But I think Nicola will have to go further in terms of, I think her aim is to kind of grow the business, and she's faced with the challenge, which I think all artisan producers are, which is the challenge in moving beyond, if you like, being a kind of a one-man operation. And I appreciate that she may wish to continue to be involved in the business for a very long time and to kind of have the hands-on.
So how do you become Clonakilty Black Pudding?
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, Clonakilty Black Pudding is a great example, I think, of a brand which has maintained its kind of artisan status in the customer's mind, and yet has clearly moved on to kind of production range that allows them to be available in every kind of supermarket in the country. Now,
and Nicola, you're nodding your head like in approval. So what Ger is saying is that, okay, so Clonakilty Black Pudding, I mean, this is a major industrial manufacturer now. Like, they produce and export all over the world. But as Ger says, it has that stamp of local produce. And so how exactly do you manage to grow the business, but at the same time still hold on to that kind of small feel? Yeah,
it's a big issue for small businesses, in the sense that you're actually looking at something that's really a design challenge in many ways. It's a graphic design challenge. It's a kind of a packaging issue, because Nicola in time wants her brand to be immediately recognisable in those spaces where she's going, without her being on the other side of the counter to say, try my jam. Now, I think she's taken some great steps towards that.
And can I say also as well, we'll start with the produce itself,
yes.
and I take your point about the labelling, but I have to commend you, Nicola, the jams. Now, the one we're eating here is a raspberry and vanilla, which I've never tasted before. I've never that combination of jam. Delicious.
It was the first jam that I ever made. I made it as Christmas gifts, and I gave it away to family and friends, and the feedback that came back was fantastic, and that was really where it started. Well, maybe we'll start doing a few farmers markets and see how this goes. To this day, it's still the best-selling product that I have. There is very rarely a farmer's market that I go to, or a shop or a gourmet store that I supply, that they don't take that product as, kind of their bestseller.
I also have the pear and vanilla jam as well. And again, I don't know if I've ever eaten pear jam. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Really, really good. And so you start. So straight away, I would imagine that, we're all, business is a funny world, but we're starting with a product that is quality from the outset. Yes. So there's no concerns here. We've got a really quality product. So I suppose then it's onto that thing, this graphic design issue. How do you then sell it beyond Nicola's farmers market trips and all the rest?
I think there's even kind of a wider challenge, but the design challenge is part of it, which is that I think Nicola needs to start telling a more compelling story. I think, as I said earlier, I think it's a great name, Big Red Kitchen. But Nicola's story, as she relays it on her website and through her Facebook, is a fairly kind of common small producer story, in the sense that, I got involved, I loved what I was doing, found there was a local market for what I was doing, and kind of grew from there. I think if you look at, again, Clonakilty Pudding as an example, there's often kind of a lore or a kind of a creation myth almost kind of grows up around the brand. And I think Nicola needs to make more of the Big Red Kitchen. In a sense, as you say, it's visually a great name, because immediately you're picturing that rustic
You're not
kitchen.
Suggesting that Nicola make up a story.
No, but I think she needs to dig a little bit harder into her own story. And I think the neighbouring fruit fields and stuff, there needs to be more of a sense of that. If you look at a brand like Bulmers, which is also kind of began as an artisan brand in many respects, they live very much in the orchards of Tipperary, and they've made that very much a stamp of the brand. I'm not saying necessarily that's the route to go for Nicola, but that is a route that you can go where the fruit fields or the surrounding market areas, that gives a sense of, this kind of comes from a place. I don't have any association in my mind, for example, with County Meath and fruit. Maybe there is one, in the sense that, and it's up to Nicola to start exploring what those connections might be so she can make more of this.
What do you think of that, Nicola?
I totally take your point on board. In fact, last week I was involved in the Meath Food Showcase with Minister Shane McEntee, who is really getting behind food in Meath. There were a lot of food producers there in Kells last Thursday, and we were all there to showcase our produce. So it is something that is really coming to the fore now, is food and food production in Meath, and the quality of the producers that we have. So I'm really hoping that with Meath Partnership and with Minister McEntee behind us, that's something that's going to come a lot more to the fore of people's minds when they think of Meath, that they start to think of food.
Besides bringing your jams to a broader market, what are the other challenges that you feel that you're facing?
Same as every business right now, cost is a big problem. The costs of eggs, for example, in recent times have skyrocketed. The cost of glass has gone up. The cost of sugar last year went crazy. So there's always this constant challenge, of dealing with increasing costs. And then on the other side, money is tight for everybody right now. So the stockists of the produce and the customers themselves are always looking for better value. So that's an ongoing battle that we're facing.
Is there a sense, Ger, and it's something that, we see it all the time, value for money rather than straight up cost? Because if you feel that you're getting a product that is made with the highest quality ingredients, made with a certain expertise that others, that maybe kind of, this big brand jams don't have, that you're willing to fork out that little bit more, like a Bon Maman, for instance. Yes. Is like if you buy a Bon Maman jam in the supermarket, it's always more expensive than any other. But as you buy it, you kind of say to yourself, well, I'm getting a really good jam here. Is that not even doubly true for the likes of Big Red Kitchen? I
think it is, and I think, again, that's where the opportunity is in the name and in the story that Nicola's starting to tell, because if you look at brands, and we've spoken about Clonakilty Black Pudding, so let's stick with the analogy for the moment, because they're, in some instances, 240% higher in cost than kind of generic black and white puddings on the same shelf.
Yeah.
And yet they are top sellers. And the reason they're top sellers is because people value that premium they're prepared. And remember, again, Avoca is another business which is demonstrating that people are prepared to pay that little bit extra when it's special enough.
Yeah.
So if I'm forking out for a jar of jam, of course I'm going to be price sensitive, but it's not such a huge purchase. It's not going to kind of make my whole shopping basket lopsided if I take that jam. So if I fall in love with the pear jam, and there's a sense that it's made somewhere that really matters to me now, I'm going to go that little bit further.
So there is that sense. So I presume it goes back to the original point that Nicola needs to tell her story in a more evocative way. Yes. So maybe the fruit farms that she grew up next to, or that she lives next to, that has to be a central part of the story. So I'm not just buying a jam with fruit from an unknown provenance. I'm buying jam from fruit that's grown by the best fruit grower, not just in County Meath, but maybe in Eastern Ireland. And so for that, I'm going to pay that little bit extra. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course,
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm going to get into this market. Okay, we mentioned Clonakilty, but is Bon Maman a good example? I mean, I have no idea where Bon Maman started. I presume It's a French jam. Is it? I guess. Is it?
It is, yeah. And, that's another problem that we face, is that it's a very competitive market.
Oh, exactly.
There's a lot of competition, both from Irish artisan producers, larger Irish producers, and then there's also a lot of imported product on the market.
Again, there's a local kind of hero who's, I think, demonstrated a little bit about how Nicola might start looking at this challenge, which is Cully and Sully, as we know, have just recently sold their business to an American concern, and have been able to build a brand in a very short time, and primarily by telling story. And in a sense, because a lot of their produce is made on the same factory lines as the generic supermarket brands, the own label brands, and yet Cully and Sully again have enjoyed premium, and have also created a sense that they have that standout in what is the ready meal market. It's hugely competitive, just as your market is, Nicola. So I think you need to rely. My core business is brand, and this is one business that I feel really needs to build the brand.
Okay, well, I can say again, actually, Nicola, just tell us very quickly where we can buy this jam, because it's really delicious, and I would encourage anyone to go out and taste it.
Thank you so much. Well, you can buy it in gourmet stores and in cafes kind of all over the country. The list is on the website www.bigredkitchen.ie. The English market in Cork does a lot of trade for us. It's a very popular product down there, and obviously that's one of the best places in the country to buy food.
According to the Queen, anyway. Listen, I have to say, Nicola Smith of Big Red Kitchen, a pleasure. Thank you very much, and we wish you every success with the business, because it's a terrific product. And Ger Tanham, of course, as always, of Island Bridge Brand Development, thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us. And again, just if you are a budding entrepreneur and you have a business...